In the United States, voters directly elect their governors, their mayors, and their members of Congress. However, the highest office in the land operates under a different set of rules. When Americans cast a ballot for president, those votes don't actually go straight to the White House. They are diverted. Because of this diversion, winning the most votes nationwide does not guarantee a victory. 4 times in U.S. history, the candidate who won the popular vote actually lost the presidency. We saw this happen in the year 2000. Democrat Al Gore won about 500,000 more popular votes than his opponent across the country, but Republican George W. Bush secured the presidency. He did it by winning the Electoral College with a tight margin of 271 to 266 votes. The architects of this system designed it as a buffer because they worried 18th century voters lacked the information to properly judge candidates from distant states. This middleman serves to insulate the final decision from direct public pressure. This map shows how that middleman works. The system is built on a decentralized network of exactly 538 electoral votes. Each state is handed a specific number of these votes, equal to its total number of House and Senate representatives. Notice this threshold line. To claim the presidency, a campaign has to capture an absolute majority. They need at least 270 of those 538 electoral votes. Watch what happens when a state is closely contested. Almost every state uses a strict winner-take-all multiplier. If a candidate wins a state's popular vote by just a single ballot, they capture 100% of that state's electoral power. This exact mathematical quirk forces candidates to change their strategy. They can't treat the country as a single unified popular vote. Instead, they have to fight across 50 separate high-stakes battlegrounds. But before a candidate can even think about hunting for those 270 electoral votes, they have to survive a brutal preliminary gauntlet, eliminating rivals within their own political party. This phase starts years in advance. Candidates form political action committees, or PACs, to raise massive amounts of money and test whether they actually have enough voter support to survive under strict Federal Election Commission rules. Then comes the winter primary and caucus season. Candidates travel state by state to convince core party voters. At events like this local gathering in Iowa, party members talk about the candidates and select delegates to support them. Because each state runs its own primary, candidates have to cater to highly specific regional issues. To outmaneuver their intra-party opponents in the West, for example, a candidate might spend days debating local water rights. This localized combat culminates here, at the National Party Convention. Delegates representing all 50 states officially cast their votes to nominate the sole surviving candidate. Winning the nomination only grants entry to the final stage. The strategy now shifts away from appealing to loyal base voters and toward playing the mathematics of the national map. Looking at this visual breakdown of California and Texas, we can see how the winner-take-all rule creates massive geographical dead zones. Millions of minority party votes in these states are essentially erased from the final electoral tally. Campaign time and money are finite resources. Because the math in massive states is predictably safe, strategists ignore them. Instead, the map shrinks. Campaigns pour advertising and travel budgets into volatile places, like Florida, Nevada, and Ohio. These are the swing states where the outcome is entirely uncertain. To sway the narrow margins of undecided voters within these specific states, campaigns rely heavily on high-pressure televised debates, carefully negotiating the rules ahead of time. All of this hyper-targeted strategy culminates on Election Day, when millions of Americans step into physical voting booths to finally tip the scales. Modern campaigns operate as a sequence of targeted geographic strikes to capture specific tipping points on the map. This intricate math has structural fragilities. A third-party candidate doing well in a few key states could siphon off enough electoral votes to prevent either major party from reaching that required 270 majority. If the Electoral College is deadlocked, the Constitution strips the decision from the voters entirely. The choice is handed directly to the House of Representatives. A House tiebreaker operates on bizarre mechanics. Each state gets exactly one equal vote. Under these rules, a tiny population like Wyoming suddenly wields the exact same presidential power as New York or California. In these edge cases, the process strays far from the ideal of one person, one vote. It exposes the fragile 18th century wiring operating right beneath the surface of modern elections. There are ongoing attempts to patch the system. Maine and Nebraska have dropped the winner-take-all approach entirely, choosing instead to divide their electoral votes proportionally by congressional district. Other states are trying a popular vote workaround. 10 states and the District of Columbia have passed laws aiming to legally bind their combined electoral votes directly to whoever wins the nationwide popular vote. But abolishing the Electoral College altogether draws heavy pushback. Critics argue a straight popular vote would weaken federalism and cause campaigns to ignore rural areas entirely to focus on dense cities. Despite all the debates and proposed patches, the definitive legal conclusion always happens in December. That is when the electors physically meet to cast the deciding votes. This massive, multi-year pipeline finally ends on January 20th. At the Capitol, the president-elect takes the oath of office and formally assumes power. The Electoral College remains a highly debated mathematical patchwork, but it ultimately fulfills its original primary function, ensuring a structured, peaceful transfer of power that binds the republic together for another 4 years.